Oh, sure. If our broadcast domain is so large, the network is going to be extremely busy even before attempting to transmit our own data, our own packets. Now, in such a network where we have a lot of hosts on the same local area network, we normally want to create a virtual local area networks. So we get another way of grouping the hosts. Now, how we group those hosts depends on the network environment. We might group depending on departments, we might group depending on offices, we might group depending, it depends on floors of a building, we might group depending on buildings. There are different ways you can group depending on the requirements of enterprise. But the thing is, we are grouping the same local area network into several virtual area networks, virtual local area networks, in order to counter the issue of a huge broadcast domain. All right, if a technology implements data communication over shared media based on carrier sense multiple access with collision detection, also abbreviated as CSMA-CD, if there are a large number of PCs on Ethernet, security risks and broadcast storms may occur. That leads to a deteriorating network performance and even causing network breakdown sometimes. The virtual local area network technology is therefore introduced to solve the preceding problem. This chapter describes basic VLAN principles, working principles of different layer 2 interfaces, VLAN applications, and data forwarding principles, together with basic VLAN configuration methods. So by the end of this chapter, you should be able to understand the background of VLAN technology and also identify the VLAN to which the data belongs to, and master the different VLAN assignment modes, and also be able to describe how data communication is implemented in case we use VLANs. And you should also master the basic VLAN configuration methods. So first of all, what is a VLAN? Now, before we talk about what a VLAN is, let us look at this broadcast domain. We said earlier, if PC1, for instance, if PC1 sends a broadcast frame, the switches will flood the frame on the network. As a result, all the other PCs receive the frame. Now, the range over which a broadcast domain spans, in which case it is the whole of this, okay? Broadcast domain, where a layer 2 broadcast domain has access to, is what we call a broadcast domain. The whole of this is one broadcast domain, as we have already seen. Now, in this case, we are assuming switch 1's MAC address table has the entry to PC2. So switch 1 will forward it only there. And we are assuming switch 2 does not have the MAC address, does not have the entry for PC2 in its MAC address table, and so it will flood the frame out of all the interfaces. And switch 3 has it, so it will forward the frame to only PC2. But switch 5 does not have it, so it floods out the frame. Now you look at all this traffic that is in our network for just a packet that is destined, a frame that is destined for PC2. So if we had put PC1 and PC2 in one VLAN like that, so PC1 maybe is in VLAN 10 and PC2 is in VLAN 10. In that case, if PC1 sends a broadcast frame, it is going to be broadcast only to other PCs that are in the same VLAN. So VLAN technology isolates broadcast domains. They can be geographically independent. They don't depend on location. Different switches can be in different buildings or different cities or different countries for that matter. And only devices in the same virtual local area network can directly communicate at layer 2. Each VLAN is a broadcast domain, and therefore PCs in the same VLAN can directly communicate at layer 2. PCs in different VLANs, however, cannot communicate at layer 2. They will need layer 3 in order to communicate. So they need to communicate at layer 3 instead of directly communicating at layer 2. That way, the broadcast packets are confined to a particular VLAN. Now, VLANs have a number of benefits. First of all, they allow flexible setup of virtual groups because they are independent geographically. So there is flexible setup. One virtual group can be here, or another virtual group is in Kenya, or another virtual group is in Tanzania, or another virtual, and they are all on the same layer 3 network, but differentiated by virtual local area networks, which will ultimately will need to be routed at layer 3. And then also, they confine each broadcast domain to a single VLAN. That conserves bandwidth that would rather be spent with broadcasts and improves the network processing capabilities. Also, VLANs enhance security. Because now in this case, assume PC1 is of a manager and PC2 is of a manager. Those frames are not going to be forwarded to other PCs that are not in those VLANs. They are only going to be sent within the management VLAN. Are we together?
Yeah, we are together.
Okay. So basically that's a little of the background and the meaning of what VLAN is. So after getting the meaning and the background, let us look at the principles that govern VLAN implementation. And I think we should start with the implementation itself. So in this case, we have switch 1 and switch 2. So switch 1 has 5 ports. 2 of the ports are put in VLAN 10, as you can see. And 2 of the ports in switch 2 are also put in VLAN 10, as you can see. And we can also see that 2 of the ports on switch 1 are put in VLAN 20, and the other 2 ports on switch 1 are put in VLAN 20. Now, 1 port on switch 2 or on switch 1 is not in any VLAN, and 1 port on switch 2 is not in any VLAN. Now, when you look at this kind of communication, if there is no processing whatsoever, then switch 2 will not be able to identify where the, will not be able to differentiate the frames. It will not be able to know that this, it will not be able to know that these frames are from VLAN 1, these frames are from VLAN 20, VLAN 10, VLAN 20, VLAN 1. It will not be able to differentiate them. There needs to be some kind of processing. And what is that processing that we are going to be using here? It is the VLAN tag. At the sending end, we are going to encapsulate our frames with a new something, and that something is going to be a VLAN tag. Inside the frame header, we are going to add a tag. We are going to add a tag. We are going to add a VLAN ID. Okay? We are going to add a VLAN ID, a special identifier that says, no, this frame is not like any other frame. It belongs to VLAN 10. It belongs to VLAN 20. That is what we are going to do. And that is what tells the other switches that this frame is in this VLAN. Now, VLAN tag is defined in IEEE 802.1Q, which defines a 4-byte tag for Ethernet frames, enabling switches to identify the VLANs to which received frames belong. And that VLAN tag we are talking about looks like this. So when we have our normal frame, this is the frame we have been talking about all along. We have the destination MAC, we have the source MAC, we have the type, and we have the data, the payload that has come from upper layers. And then we have the frame check sequence. This normal frame that does not have a VLAN tag is called an untagged frame. Now, in case we are dealing with VLAN frames, we add a tag right there in between the destination MAC address field and the type field. And that tag is made up of these several fields. The concern of this particular class is in the VLAN ID. That is what we are most interested in. But the other fields are over there. The tag protocol identifier. The tag protocol identifier identifies the type of frame. The value is normally set to 8100. It's a decimal, which indicates the IEEE 802.1Q frame. The PRI, or priority, identifies the priority of a frame, which is mainly used for quality of service. And then the canonical format identifier indicates whether the MAC address is written in canonical format. For Ethernet frames, the value of that is normally 0. We are most interested with the VLAN ID, which identifies which VLAN does this frame belong to. So now, this being an untagged frame, when we add a VLAN tag to that frame, it becomes like this. This is the tagged frame, ladies and gentlemen. Every time we say tagged frame, we are going to be talking about exactly the same frame, but with a VLAN tag added in between the source MAC address field and the length or type field of the frame. So going back to this implementation of ours over here, we now see that when the original frame comes from PC1, that frame is an untagged frame. But then when it hits the interface that has been assigned to VLAN 10, that interface adds a VLAN tag in between the source MAC address field and the length field or the type field. It will add a VLAN tag, and so inside the switch, the frame is now a tagged frame. And when the frame comes out of the switch, that frame is a tagged frame. It enters the other switch as a tagged frame, and then when it reaches the other interface where it has to get out, it gets untagged by that interface. So these interfaces that we have looked at, interface 1 and 2, interface 1 and 2 on the other end, they tag entering frames and they untag exiting frames. The same is going to apply to interface 4 over here. When the PC2 releases a frame to the switch, that frame is an untagged frame. It is the original frame untagged. The interface that has been assigned, the interface has been assigned to VLAN 20. Someone put that interface in VLAN 20. So that interface is going to add a VLAN tag with VLAN ID 20 on that frame. So now that frame is a tagged frame, and it moves across the switches as a tagged frame, and that frame can only come out of an interface which is in VLAN 20. That is how VLANs do their work. Are we together?
Yes, sir.
Now, how do we assign ports to VLANs, or addresses to VLANs, or MAC addresses to VLANs, or protocols to VLANs? We can actually use any of those. So for my previous example, I was saying that this interface is the one that tags. Now it's important to understand that that is for interface-based VLANs, where you go to interface gigabit Ethernet 001, and you say that interface is in VLAN 10. Then you go to 002 and say that interface is in VLAN 20. So it is interfaces that are going to assign frames to particular VLANs. That one is called interface-based assignment. So you can say, okay, in VLAN 10, I have interface 1 and interface 3. And in VLAN 20, I have interface 2 and interface 4. That is based on interfaces. We can also base on the MAC address, the source MAC address of the frame, where we go to the switch and configure that if a frame comes with source MAC 1 and or source MAC 3, that frame should be tagged with the VLAN 10. And if a frame comes with MAC of 2 and MAC 4, then that frame should be tagged with VLAN ID 20. We can also assign VLANs based on the interface, based on the IP subnet. Thirdly, based on the IP subnet. This one is saying if a frame comes from 10.0.1.0/24, for instance, that frame should be in VLAN 10. And if it comes from 10.1.0/24, that one should be assigned to VLAN 20. And then we can also assign based on protocol, where we put different protocols in different VLANs. If a frame is in IPv4, let it be in VLAN 10. If it is in IPv6 protocol, let it be in VLAN 20. And then we have what we call policy-based assignment, where we can get any combination of these four and use that combination to assign our VLANs. Now, for interface-based VLANs, as I've already said, we get hold of these interfaces and give them a port VLAN ID. You say, hey, you port, you're in this VLAN. 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 So what's going to happen If you get hold of your PC and connect it to that port, that PC is going to be in VLAN 10. When that PC sends a frame, that frame is going to be untagged, as you see right there. But once it crosses that port that has port VLAN ID 10, it is going to get a VLAN ID of 10 tagged to it. So basically, for port-based VLAN assignment, VLANs are assigned based on the interfaces. A network administrator pre-configures a port VLAN ID for each switch interface and assigns each interface to a VLAN corresponding to the port VLAN ID. After an interface receives an untagged frame, the switch adds a tag carrying the port VLAN ID of the interface to the frame. The frame is then transmitted in the specified VLAN as a tagged frame. Okay? What we call the port default VLAN ID, or PVID, is the default VLAN for an interface. Now, if you don't set any, then it's always going to be 1. If you set, then it's going to be that one which you set. They range from 1 to 4094. Okay. And then when we talk about MAC-based VLANs or MAC address-based VLAN assignment, we get into our switch and we pre-configure that if this MAC address is connected, it is in VLAN 10. If this MAC address is connected, it is in VLAN 10. If MAC address 3 is connected, it is in VLAN 20. If MAC address 4 is connected, it is in VLAN 20. Now what's going to happen here? When you get hold of your PC and connect it to any port on the switch is going to read the MAC address of the PC, and depending on the MAC address assignment table, it is going to be allocated to the necessary VLAN. So once a computer sends a frame, it is an untagged frame as we have seen. But when that frame hits the switch checks the source MAC address, and after establishing the MAC address, it uses the VLAN associated with that MAC address and tags that frame with that necessary VLAN ID. So the basic principles are that VLANs are assigned based on the source MAC address of frames, and the network administrator pre-configures the mapping between the MAC address and the VLAN IDs. After receiving an untagged frame, the switch adds the VLAN tag mapping and the VLAN tag that maps the source MAC address for the frame to the frame itself. The frame is then transmitted in the specified VLAN as a tagged frame. Now the mapping table is the one that records the mapping. That's like the MAC address table. It records the mapping. This one records the mapping between the MAC address and the VLAN IDs. MAC address table, remember, records the mapping between the MAC address and the port on which that MAC address is connected. Are we together so far? You guys, it costs you nothing to say we are together.
Yeah.
Yeah, not even data, because you're already connected to the network, so it's not costing you data. So please try to be together with me and let me know we are together so that I can know I'm not speaking to myself. Now, considering what we have looked at already, I hope we understand that some of these interfaces will be in charge of adding a tag. Okay? Others will be in charge of removing a what? Removing a tag. Now, there are also interfaces that don't do anything. They don't do anything. If they receive a frame which is untagged, they take it through. If they receive a frame which is tagged, they take it through. We have different kinds of interfaces, and right now we try to look at them. We have what we call an access interface, and we have what we call the trunk interface, and we have what we call the hybrid interface. Now, this is the most important slide in all VLANs, because if you don't understand these three interfaces, you're going to be in a mess all your time, okay? Now, access interfaces are the ones that add or remove what? Remove VLANs, VLAN tags. Are we together?
Yes.
And based on this definition, what does that tell us? They are the ones that we connect to what? To PCs or to terminals. Because terminals send untagged what? Frames, and they should receive untagged frames. What does that mean? when it sends an untagged frame, the frame gets tagged from an access what? Interface. And when the switch is sending out the frame that was originally tagged by the sending end, when it is sending it out to the destination, it removes the tag. So these are all access ports. Are we together?
Yes.
They are all access ports. Even the port that connects to a device like a router will in most cases be an access port, because routers will also release what? Untagged frames and receive untagged frames by default. By default is the key. Okay? Now, there are also interfaces. Let us say this interface, access interface, has added VLAN 10 to our frame. And this interface will remove the VLAN 10 from our frame. What does that mean? It means this interface needs to carry our frame with its VLAN. Are we together?
Yes.
It will come here with VLAN 10 and goes out with its VLAN 10. Enters here with its VLAN 10 and it can come out of here with its VLAN 10. Enters here with its VLAN 10 and the VLAN 10 gets removed from there. Or the VLAN 10 gets removed from there. Now, those ports that can carry VLAN tagged frames and also can carry untagged frames, for instance, let us say there is a port here that was not put in any VLAN. So it sends an untagged frame. The switch receives it as an untagged frame because there is no VLAN ID, there is no port VLAN ID assigned there. This port here should be able to transmit the untagged frame, and this one receives the untagged frame, and this one forwards the untagged frame, and this one receives the untagged frame, and it gets sent to the destination as an untagged frame. So these ports allow frames that belong to multiple VLANs to pass through and differentiate the frame using the VLAN tag, 802.1q tag. This type of interface is used to connect a switch to another switch or a sub-interface on a device, such as a router or a firewall. Please note that for a router or a firewall, that interface is connecting to a sub-interface. And then the hybrid interface, the easiest way for me always tell people what the hybrid interface is, that it's that one that has the properties of an access interface and the properties of a trunk interface. But before we start breaking this down, let us actually look at the inside of an access interface. What exactly is it doing? So this is an access interface. This is inside the switch. That interface receives an untagged frame, and because it has been assigned a port VLAN ID of 10, it will add a tag to that frame. That is what an access interface does. Are we together?
Yes.
Are we following, everyone?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
we are.
Okay. And that is when an access interface receives an untagged frame. What happens when it receives? It is taking in an already tagged frame. Please note these four things. These are four different things. When an access port takes in, that is when it takes in, and this is when it takes out, okay? It can take in an untagged frame or take in a tagged frame. And it can take out it can take out an untagged frame. It can take out, a tagged frame. It can only take out a tagged frame because when it is assigned a certain port VLAN, it can't permit packets that are not in that VLAN. Are we together? So we are considering when it is taking out a tagged frame with its own tag, its own VLAN ID, and when it's taking out a tagged frame with a different VLAN ID. So let us look at this again. When it is taking in an untagged frame, it adds the tag, which is equivalent to its port VLAN ID. And what if it takes in a tagged frame that has been tagged with its own port VLAN ID? It permits the frame through without making any changes. Please note that that happens when the tagged frame is tagged with its own port VLAN ID. If it is tagged with a different port VLAN ID, it's going to discard it. Are we together? It won't permit it to go through. And once the port is taking out a frame from the switch received the frame tagged and it's getting out of the port. If the exiting frame has the same port VLAN, sorry, same VLAN ID as the port VLAN ID of the interface will untag it and forward or take out, send out an untagged frame. And if the frame accessing the interface has a VLAN ID that is different from the interface's port VLAN ID, the interface is going to block that frame. It's not going to allow it to get out. Are we together?
Yes.
That is the behavior of an access interface. And the behavior of a trunk interface is different. Also, we are looking at it receiving frame, untagged, and then sending frame and tagged, but either with its own port VLAN ID or with a different port VLAN, with a different VLAN ID. So now for trunk ports, please note, for trunk ports, we can assign a port VLAN ID, but most importantly, we must permit allowed frames. We must permit allowed VLANs. So for trunk ports, they permit VLANs. This is the summary, first of all. Trunk ports allow tagged and also allow untagged to pass through. Are we together?
Yes.
However, if a frame is tagged, it must be permitted expressly. You must type the command permit this VLAN. Are we together?
Yes.
So we are considering a trunk port that has port VLAN ID of 10. When it receives an untagged frame, it will tag it with its own port VLAN ID. Now listen to the interesting part. If that VLAN is permitted, it will permit the frame. Are we together?
Yes. Yeah.
If that VLAN is not permitted, it will not go through. That is the interesting, stupid thing about trunk ports. It can put its own VLAN ID on you, and because it was not permitted, it is trying to permitted, now it blocks you. It says, you're in VLAN 10, you're not allowed through. Are we together?
Yes, we are.
Yes.
Cool. And otherwise, it will let you through if that VLAN of its own VLAN ID is allowed through. And then when it receives a frame that is already tagged with a permitted VLAN, it is going to allow that frame through. Are we together?
Yes.
One thing that is missing here, if it receives a frame that is tagged with a VLAN that is not permitted, it is not going to permit that frame through. And what if it is sending out a frame? If the frame is tagged with a permitted VLAN, okay? And that VLAN is the port VLAN ID. It is going to remove the what? The VLAN ID and send out an untagged frame. What happens if the switch does not have a port VLAN ID? It is simply going to allow that frame through with its what? With its VLAN tag. Something like we have there. There is a VLAN on the frame and that VLAN is permitted, but it is not the port VLAN ID of the trunk port. The trunk port will simply let that frame go through with its own VLAN tag. So this is an example of processing, for access and trunk ports. So what are we looking at here? We're looking at PC1 in VLAN 10 and PC2 in VLAN 20. And what is going to happen? PC1 and PC2 both send untagged frames, as you can see them. Now, because this is an access port with a port VLAN ID of 10, and that's an access port with a port VLAN ID of 20, when this frame from PC1 hits that port, it gets to be tagged with VLAN ID of 10. When the frame from PC2 hits that port, it gets tagged with VLAN ID of 20. And so, and since this is a trunk port, the trunk port, according to this, permits VLAN 1 and VLAN 10 and VLAN 20. So it is going to allow through these two frames, one with its own VLAN, the other one with also its VLAN, because those VLANs are permitted. Please note that this port has a PVID of 10, of 1. PVID of 1 means we have not assigned it any VLAN ID. That is the default. So it sends the frames, and then when you look at the second switch also, its trunk port permits VLAN 10 and VLAN 20, and so the frames will get right into the switch with their own tags. Now what's going to happen when the frame of VLAN 10 reaches there, that port, because it has a PVID of 10, will decapsulate it at VLAN. It will remove the VLAN tag, and the frame will get out as an untagged frame. The one of VLAN 20 will also be decapsulated, but that PVID of 20, and it will get out as an untagged frame. I hope that makes sense to everyone. And then we talk about the hybrid interface, which I said has properties of both tagged and untagged frames. Of both access and trunk ports. So what happens when a hybrid interface receives an untagged frame? If it receives an untagged frame and it has been assigned a port VLAN ID, it is going to tag it with that port VLAN ID. Now, if that port VLAN ID, that VLAN is permitted, then the frame will go through our hybrid interface. If it receives an already tagged frame and that frame VLAN ID is permitted, it is going to let it go through, okay? It's going to let it go through. What happens if it receives a frame to get out of it? If it wants to send out a frame that has a VLAN tag that equals to its port VLAN ID and it is permitted. If it equals to its port VLAN ID and it is permitted, it is going to untag it using the port VLAN ID and send out an untagged frame. But if it receives a frame that has a VLAN ID that is not the same as its port VLAN ID, if that VLAN ID is permitted, then it is going to send out the frame as is. It does nothing to it. If it is not permitted, then it is not going to send it out. Let us look at an example of processing on hybrid interfaces. So in this example, we have PC1 in VLAN 10 and PC2 in VLAN 20, and we have the server in VLAN 100. However, you look at interface 1 on switch 1, it untags and tags VLAN 1 and 10 and 100. And interface 2 untags and tags VLAN 1 and 20 and 100. Interface 3 permits. When you see tagged, it means it behaves as a trunk port. When you see untagged, it means it behaves as an access port. Are we together?
Yes.
So interface 1 and 2 on switch 1 are behaving like access ports. They will either tag ingoing frames or untag outgoing frames. Are we together? Interface 3 is behaving as a trunk port. It will permit VLAN 10, okay? It will permit VLAN, I think this is supposed to be 20, I believe this is a typo, permits VLAN 20 and permits VLAN 100. Are we together?
Yes.
Yes, we are.
And then when we look at switch 2, its interface 1 is untagged. By untagged, we mean it will tag and untag all these VLANs. Are we together? So,
Yes.
Yes.
what
yes,
is going to happen here when a frame gets into our switch? When a frame gets into our switch, it gets tagged because it is an untagged frame, and these two interfaces behave like access ports, so they will tag, okay? And then this one behaves like a trunk port. It will send them the way they are. And then, excuse me, this one behaves like an access port. It untags all these. So it will remove those VLANs and it will send an untagged frame to our server. Are we together?
Yes.
Okay, so this is a summary of everything I've been explaining. This is a summary of everything I've been explaining. And now we look at the VLAN applications. This summary is the same stuff I've been talking about. Okay, let us look at the application of VLANs. VLAN planning particularly. How do we plan the whole of this stuff? The rules, number one, we can assign VLANs by service, or by department, or by application. For example, you can say one VLAN is for voice, another VLAN is for video, another VLAN is for data. We can assign depending on department. We can say one VLAN is for engineering department, one is for marketing department, one is for financing or finance department. We can even assign based on application. We can say this VLAN is for all servers. This VLAN is for all offices, and this VLAN is for all classrooms. Now, what are the tips? VLAN IDs can be randomly assigned within the supported range. But to improve continuity, you know, you can say VLAN 10 is for voice. And then you say VLAN 53 is for video. And then you say VLAN 169 is for data. That is what we mean. They can be assigned randomly and they'll work. But how will you be able to remember this every time? And it's not, it just doesn't even look good. So you can associate VLAN IDs with subnets. This is the best and by far the best way to assign them. Let us say you have subnet 10.10.20.0. It is best to call this VLAN 20. You see that?
Yes.
You say VLAN 21. You see that? So when you see any IP address, you can easily identify which VLAN that traffic is in. Are we getting the idea?
Yes, yes.
Yes. Don't say now this one, let me see, I think I should use, let me use 19 and 199. So VLAN 19, VLAN 109. You know, not just feelings, but again, this is just a tip. Please follow your gut. Now we have an example for VLAN planning here, and this one, I'll give it to you as an exercise. Look at it, but we can go through it. Assume that there are 3 buildings: administrative building with offices, classrooms, and financing sections. Teaching building, you see, administrative building has offices, classrooms, and finance sections. Teaching building has offices, 1 again, classrooms, 2 again. Okay? Teaching building has only offices and classrooms. And then we have the office building that has offices, 1 again, and financing. Financing is 3. Do you see all the buildings have offices?
Yes.
So what are we going to do? We are going to assign office users to VLAN 1. Okay? Because all switches, all ports are in VLAN 1 by default. Are we together? That makes our configuration easy, because we don't want to be assigning ports to different VLANs. Those ones are already in VLAN, and every building already has what? Offices. And then we shall say, that is 10. And then we can have another VLAN, and another VLAN, and another VLAN. So you can see what we are having here: VLAN 1, there, VLAN 2, there, VLAN 3, there, and VLAN 100. We are associating each subnet with a different VLAN. We have a VLAN for financing. We have a VLAN for classrooms. Now, some of you are wondering, now, John, what about the 100? It is for management. So if you want to log into your switch to change some stuff, you're in another place, you know that you're logging in using this subnet. So when you're configuring your devices, you will tell them, please permit telnet as long as it's coming from that what? That network. If one who is accessing is coming from that network, permit. So wherever you are, you make sure you're on this network before you try to access the what? The device management. Are we together?
Yes.
So what happens in our assignment? We have an interface-based VLAN assignment in this case. Let us look at the scenario. There are multiple enterprises in a building. See that? There are many of them in the same building. These enterprises share network resources to reduce costs. So maybe you're the one managing the network of some big building in town that has a lot of enterprises. Networks of the enterprises, and that is now a service you can go and start up in town. Networks of the enterprises connect to different interfaces of the same layer 2 switch and access the internet through the same egress device. So imagine we have an enterprise, something company limited on that building, and then another enterprise, something anything enterprise limited on that building, and then another one, something everything enterprise limited on the same building. The building is running the same network infrastructure and you're the engineer. So what are you going to do? When every enterprise comes in, you give them their own VLAN and then you assign the ports to the different VLANs. So where every enterprise connects, if this enterprise has 6 pieces, you assign 6 ports in VLAN 2. This enterprise has 20 pieces, you assign 20 ports on VLAN 3 and so on and so forth. Now, the layer 2 switch forwards all the traffic with the VLANs to the layer 3 switch. The layer 3 switch will do the routing. Are we together? Let us look at the assignment. To isolate the service of different enterprises and ensure service security, assign interfaces connected to enterprises' networks to different VLANs. In that way, each enterprise has an independent network. That is what we call a virtual what? Local area network. And each VLAN works as a virtual work group. Are we together? That is an example for interface-based assignment. Now, for those of you who really want to get to the core of this stuff, I'm sorry for those of you who have done routing and switching and you believe you know a lot. In routing and switching, we don't have cases like this. So you have a whole lot of material and you're wondering even where to apply it. That is the beauty of our Datacom course. Okay, now you can get to your ENSP, simulate this. You can get to wherever you are. In fact, you can write down a proposal and go and implement this on some building out there. And it might work. Let us look at a scenario or a case, an application scenario. Again, I'm telling you again, this is one of those things that is not there in our routing and switching course. That is why our Datacom course is an upgrade. And a total upgrade of the routing and switching. So normally at the end of routing and switching, if you've worked hard, you know everything inside out, but then you're even wondering how to start applying them. Let us look at the MAC address-based VLAN assignment scenario. This is the application scenario. The network administrator of an enterprise assigns PCs in the same department to the same VLAN. Now to improve security, what are you going to do? The enterprise requires that only employees in the specified department be allowed to access specific network resources. To solve that problem, the best solution is going to be MAC address-based VLAN assignment. To meet that requirement, configure MAC address-based VLAN assignment on switch 1. So, what are we trying to implement here? We are implementing mobility together with what? Security. In fact, this is the benefit of MAC VLANs. Where does mobility come in? We are going to say that. How does security come in? We have configured the MAC addresses that can access VLAN 10. And then some hacker, some Mario who has studied some tricks here and there, decides to access the network in his tricky ways. When he accesses the network, he's not in our VLAN, and so he can't access our resources because the switch does not have his MAC address in our VLAN. Are we together? That is heavy security, by the way, implemented right at layer 2. And where does mobility come in? The mobility comes in of what happens if this interface goes down. In fact, this is one of the problems of interface-based VLAN assignment. When this interface goes down, this PC gets connected to interface 20. What happens? Now you have to get to the switch and configure port 20 to that VLAN if you use interface-based. For MAC address-based, just take this port, connect it to interface 23, and because it is that MAC address, the switch will assign it to the respective VLAN.
John, a question?
Yes.
Now, if I use other third-party applications to find out the MAC addresses in a network, then I pull out that specific MAC address, then I try to find ways of penetrating into the network.
Third-party applications like what?
Let's say maybe Multigo or Beef.
No, even ARP will show you the MAC address.
Will do what?
Or even advanced IP scanners to find out the MAC addresses of devices in the network. Then I try
the thing is, you're assuming you are in this network. Because how will you find devices in the network you're not in? And if you're in this network, then this is not security in the first place.
John, let me ask something.
Yes.
So
wait a sec. Mario, have I answered you?
Not really. What about if maybe I'm deploying a printer? Then I use that port of maybe network admin gives me a specific port, which does not really have much security to deploy a printer. Then I will use that printer to learn the network addresses.
How do you use a printer to learn the network addresses?
John, printers have ability of once you connect it to a network.
Yes.
If you don't secure some protocol.
Again, Mario, you are assuming that printer is in VLAN 10. Yes? Because if it is not in VLAN 10, how is it going to get an IP in that network? How is it even going to know that that network has VLAN 10 in it?
I mean, if it's dynamically, let's say.
How? Yes. Dynamically means someone created a DHCP pool here, and that DHCP pool assigns this guy's IP addresses and assigns your printer an IP address in the same pool. So you're in this network. Now, if I have two DHCP pools, one with the .10.0 network, and the other one .20.0 network, and your printer has been assigned the .20.0 network, how will it know there is also a .10.0 network? This is now the good thing with trying to get your hands dirty with this stuff. Because when you actually try to do it, you'll see that it is quite difficult. Am I answering you? Your first assumption is that you are in this network. If you are not in this network, the problem, this security is to stop you from accessing that network. And all the attacks you're telling me are possible if you are in this network. Now, if I've implemented port security on this switch and assigned MAC address that are on this switch, then how the hell are you going to connect and start scanning in the first place? The device that is scanning is connected on the network, so you are on the network. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yes. So now, what we are trying to do here is to stop you from joining the network. By the time you have a scanner that can scan, it means you're already on the network in the first place. Now, this attack is useless for you because you are already in this group. Are you getting me?
Sure.
Yes, now you need to look at how do you now penetrate to cross to that side. You're already in the group. Now, this solution, the security I'm talking about, is to prevent you from joining that what? That group. And the only way you can bypass that is maybe get access to one of these guys Physical access, that is where I always tell people in my classes of security, social engineering is the core of hacking. Because there is heavy security on devices, ladies and gentlemen, heavy. I know some of us have done it. We get this stuff online and we try them, and then we access those devices. You know, you're accessing devices in your PC. The enterprise is not going to be in your PC. For any of you has done that, it's good. But again, it is devices in your PC. In the real world, you're trying to access a network which is far away from your PC. You know nothing about. Social engineering is going to be the beginning. So you'll get a way of befriending one of these guys, maybe write some code in his CLI, maybe write something to run, some backdoor or something, or run some command to get his MAC address, and then you spoof his MAC address. But again, that means you got access to this network in the first place. Are we together?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is the security. Cecilio, you are asking something.
Yeah, my question was, okay, you kind of answered it, but let me ask Steve, because, for example,
yes,
if
it
that
will help
network,
some other people. Yes.
the network has, say, guest access, for example, where I can easily get the Wi-Fi access onto that network.
Mm-hmm.
Would my PC learn MAC addresses from other VLANs as well?
Now, in that case, we are going to have the guest VLAN and the employee VLAN.
Yes.
Your PC will learn an address there. It will not even know there is another network.
Okay.
Yeah, and in fact, we normally configure, for our deployments, we use our access controllers. We deploy heavy security on the access controllers. Interaction between these VLANs, because each of these is a service VLAN. We deploy access. Actually, we can even segregate. We can say guests should not be able to access their fellow guests. When you go to Huawei, for example, you'll get an address if you're on the guest network, and the other guest will get another address, but you can't ping them.
Okay, John,
Yes.
let's reverse the question in this way.
You can try that.
How is that?
It is possible. It's security. Guys, when you sit in these classes, you're not the only ones in these classes. There are others who sat before and even sat in higher classes. This is actually very simple to implement. One command in an AC will implement that, just one command. So I'll have one person, 2 people, 3 people on the same network, same switch, same access controller, all on the guest network. But this one cannot ping this one. It can't happen. Does not have access.
John, can I reverse the question?
Pardon?
Can I reverse the question?
Same network, yes. I just said same network. Yes,
John,
yes,
another
Mario.
question. If I've got employment as a new network administrator, how would I really get to know the VLANs in the network?
But you are the new network administrator. Log into the switch and display VLANs.
Yes.
Yes?
Through management or in any other way?
Anyway, I mean, you are the network administrator. All these PCs, you're the one who tells the people to sit on them or leave them. Where do you not have access to?
Yeah.
Because I am trying to find ways of being this anonymous employee who is not maybe a network admin, but I know stuff. And I really want to get into the network, find out.
But if you are the employee, you are in the network.
You are known even.
You are in the network and you are known. It is a matter of fooling your other employee and you log in with their details, or befriending the admin. I mean, what do you mean? You are an employee already. Your ID is in the system. Why are you even looking for tricks? Log in with even your PC. Install a virtual machine on your PC. Spoof your MAC address. I mean, you are an employee. What's the problem?
No, the company has a VLAN restrictions, like how we said.
Yes, it has. It has, but you said you know your stuff. So among that stuff is bypassing the VLAN restrictions. Or maybe you didn't mean you know your stuff.
That's what I want to know, how I would go through that.
Now, not in this class. You want people to run away.
What? John.
Yes.
I think what Mario is trying to say is being an employee in the organization without access to the switch, but he wants to learn the entire network and, you know, spoof in and get the details. That's what I think Mario is trying to elaborate.
Mario used the term knowing stuff. He's a technical guy. That is the assumption, right?
Yeah, yes.
So among that stuff is where what he needs to do is. We are assuming.
But he has, he has no credentials.
Yes, but he knows his stuff. Okay? So he knows how to use scanners. He knows how to fool fellow employees.
Yes.
Okay. He knows how to spoof MAC addresses. He can get the MAC address of the administrator's laptop. He can. There are several ways to do that because he knows the stuff.
True.
Now, if you remove this clause of knowing the stuff, now there is a problem. Because let us assume you are a guard with a company ID. So maybe you're a cleaner. Cleaners are cleaning the laptops, and some employees are leaving the laptops on. Am I right?
Yes.
Now, what is the problem? What tricks are you looking for? You're cleaning a laptop which is on, but you're looking for tricks to get to the network, and you're saying you know the stuff. Because one IP address of a particular department will let you know which subnet that department is on. Now, you know which network to do what? To scan, because those scanners have limitations. You know, you won't scan all the IP addresses in the world. You need to know what you're scanning. So getting one person's IP address lets me know the range of what I need to do what? To scan. And when I get replies from my scanner, when I get results, I know which ports are open. Now I'm already aware of where servers have been redirected. You see? Now, I know how to dynamically or customly encapsulate my own attack packet in order to access a server. So what is the problem? Because if you assume you know stuff, you know where you need to look. The only problem you normally get if you know stuff is access to the actual enterprise. That is the problem. So how the hell will you sit on a Stanbic Bank PC? That is the problem. But if you know stuff and you are unemployed, what do you mean? You know the IP address, because in those applications, they will show you 10.10.4.19, and they will even give you the layer 4 address. They will say on port 14612. Now, what else do you want? You have the whole socket, and then you have the application at the beginning. What else do you want to start initiating attacks? Yes, there is application level security on that. If you know stuff, you know where to bypass that. That's why you have those VLANs in your laptop that you're trying to elevate rights on. So it is as simple as that if you know stuff. Now, if you know stuff, normally the only thing you need is access to the what? To the gadgets. But the problem comes if your stuff that you know is also a bit jumpy. So you actually get access to your boss's laptop. Tells you, oh, I'm very sorry, I've been trying to access this thing for a long time, and I'm told you have some little knowledge. And he leaves you with a laptop. And then you're spending months trying to access the company's network. You know, you have access to the company's webmail login, but you're saying you need access to the company's network. That means this part is not there in your characteristics. Are we together?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so guys, please don't run out of class. For those of you who are just looking at these blue colors and getting nice explanations for how these things are happening, but more of that, yes.
Don't you think MAC address-based VLANs are kind of hectic because you need to assign, you need to get physical MAC addresses of all those equipments on the network?
Not really.
This is done.
Yeah?
Dan, the thing we call security is hectic. That's it. There is no security which is not hectic. Do you know how we configure port security? Because for security on an enterprise, you configure port security. You know, this is why companies buy these switches. There are switches out there unmanaged that can do the same job, but they don't have that stuff. So your company buys a Cisco switch, a Huawei switch, in hope that you know these things and you will configure them. So we configure port security to say this port should only learn up to 4 MAC addresses. Because you have only 4 computers on your network. But some engineer who even attended some security class is letting the switch open. So someone accesses the company's network and somehow plugs in their device and their MAC address is unknown, but it's already in the network. They have some software that fools STP, they take over the root bridge position, and then all BPDs are now moving to them. They analyze packets, they initiate beta attacks. All security is hectic. When you want to configure port security, you'll go and say this port should work with this MAC address or this one or this one. You'll manually code them in, or you will tell it should learn 3 MAC addresses in total. The problem with that is what happens if the attacker's computer connects first. Then his MAC address will be learned. So security, or maybe I should add good security, is always hectic. Everywhere. Be it for websites, be it for applications, be it for the network, which all of course rounds down to the network. It is always hectic. And the networks that are always easy for us to penetrate is for those people who want to do a few clicks and the system is secure. It is never secure. It is always hectic. So yes, it is hectic, but you know that will be your job, isn't it? And you'll be waking up every day to report at work at 9 a.m. and leave at 5 p.m. And what do you guys do in those rooms? You're always taking coffee. No big deal. The network was set up long time ago. What are you doing? Apart from responding to an employee who is telling you, I can't access this application, you go perform a few pings and go back to your desk. What exactly are you doing? So that stuff is what you're supposed to do. People in accounts are always reviewing incomes, what, every day. What are you doing every day as a network engineer? Because even this one that we are calling hectic done, you set it up in 1 day up to 1 week and it is done. You're not going to set it up again. This switch is going to be in that company and it will not go off for more than even a year if you have backup. So you're going to do this once and you're going to keep earning your boss's money month after month after month for pinging the application to see whether there is still connectivity. So that is what you do, but you're going to do it only once. I hope I'm answering you.
Yeah.
Okay, I hope we have cleared that. So this is where MAC address VLANs become important in some cases. They implement some level of security. But remember, in an enterprise where you've been given a job, you're not going to have only one line of defense. That is very, very dangerous. Okay? Not only one line of defense. You will have AAA. You have AAA deployed on some AAA server somewhere. So even after someone accessing, you have portal authentication. Even after someone accessing the network, when they try to log into the system, they are going to be redirected to the authentication server. They will need now to log in with details. They will need to fool an employee once again. Okay? Even after logging in with those details, sometimes active administrators get notifications. This person has logged in. And then they are looking at the people who attended work today. That person is not there. What's the problem? And then they will start checking the logs. And they will identify you and kick you out. That is what is going to happen. Now, for those ones who are good at sitting, very good at sitting in IT rooms to take coffee, you will do everything behind the scenes. Now, don't start calling yourself a good hacker. You only landed on a bad administrator. Are we together?
Yeah.
Yes, security has a lot to it. Security has a lot to it, guys. If you've attended 1 security class, 2 security classes, and more so security classes, maybe associate level, or maybe you've downloaded some, you know, Valn Hub. You guys know Valn Hub?
Yeah.
Yes, that is the run-to place of people who want to be penetration testers. They are always running to VulnerHub. They get those images, put them in their laptop, and they start attacking them. You are attacking computers in your laptop. And then at the end of the day, you want to attack Stanbic Bank. Yeah, it might not happen. It is not in your laptop. But of course it helps. It helps you, but you will notice for all those things, the first assumption is you have some level of access. So you want to elevate your what? Your privileges. Normally that is what we have. We have some level of access. But now when you want to access where you completely have no access at all, there is MAC address authentication, there is a portal authentication, there is a lot of security gadgets, and the person working on them is good. You're going to have a problem, my friend. It is not going to be as simple as what you call hectic for now, because when you're accessing those images in your virtualized environment inside your machine, you think it is hectic. Now, the actual world is not going to be that way. It is going to be hectic tier. Yes, but also, of course, you're accessing those images to get nothing, but in the actual world, you will be getting something. So there will be reason to work harder. All right, that's it for those of you who are security oriented. Let us finish the basics first, all right? So I've presented to you two different cases. I've presented to you two different cases, planning and then two different cases for you to understand how VLANs play out. And then those of you who have interest in security, understanding these things lets you know how not simple it is to work. So they let you understand you even have to work harder and harder to achieve your goal. This stuff is not simple. You always just have to pray that you land on a lazy security administrator. That is when you will have a walkover, okay? But if you land on one who is like you, but then they got a job, you're going to be in trouble. Because they know those loopholes you're trying to go through, and they have blocked them. That is why enterprises are always advised to get people who know their stuff. Most enterprises get these huge firewalls, they get very expensive switches and routers, but no one has implemented any security on those devices. All right, so let us look at configuration examples. Let us look at configuration examples of VLANs. Configuration examples of VLANs, and we are very soon going to see that it is very simple to create a VLAN. Just type the command VLAN and specify the VLAN ID. And you can also create a set of VLANs all at the same time. Now we are going to do this, we might do this, but before we do, this is a case. You see this? This is a case configuring interface-based VLANs, okay? This is an exercise for you. Please take a picture of it. Again, guys, if you are a professional, if you are a beginner, if you have not even begun yet and you want to know these things, do labs, do labs, do labs, do labs. Do very many labs, and after doing so many of them, do a lot more. Okay? Everything will start looking like common sense. Have you taken a picture of this?
Yes, me, I'm done.
You're done. But that's not
I've taken the picture.